Hi everyone, welcome back to the session. Am I audible to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Just a second, let me turn off the Google. I'm sharing my screen. And I have shared the project class invitation to all of you. Please check your email. So I hope you would have received it. So today we are going to discuss about what is client and server. You should be aware of when you're doing a testing, because you know that three layers are there: presentation layer, business logic layer, and data layer. So these layers are present inside the servers, like say UI server, say then application server, and then database server. There will be separate servers. How the server looks like, okay, you already know that high level diagram. I'll just show you the server. You look at here, server images. So this is how the server looks like, where all the data will be stored. So in our company, so wherever I am working, so if I want to access the data from this server, if I want to access data from this server, what we do is we will be using one tool called WinApp. It's WinSCP, I guess. WinSCP, yeah. So this is a file, okay, WinSCP. So this is how, okay, the server looks like. After installing the software, you have to install the software in SAP. Then you need to enter the protocol name. They will give a host name like so and so url.com. So you have to enter that qscircle.com. There will be one server. Everybody cannot access this. Only the limited people who have access, they can access. So they have to enter this host name. They have to enter the port. Developers will give you the details. Then username and password. Then click on login. After logging in, you will see the list of files which are present in the server. Look at here. These are all the list of files. It's like a normal one, separate computer, which is there in the cloud space. Okay, if you're seeing the diagram, right, the server diagram. So it's like one computer here where all the data is stored. When you open it, when you connect it to that, you will see the list of folders and you can access whatever the files you want. This is how we will be connecting to the server by entering these details, required details. Now, the client and the server will take this diagram. Let me take down this diagram. Let me change the image. Client and server architecture. So what do you mean by client? A client is nothing but you. You are the person. You might be using a mobile, or you might be using a laptop, or you might be using a desktop. Client means a system. Client means a system or a computer, wherein which we can access all the data from this server, where we want to access all the data from this server. Client is nothing but it's a computer wherein which we can access all the data from the server, wherein which we can access all the data from the server. This is about client. So this client system will have a limited storage, because see here in my laptop, if I go to the desktop here, if I go to the storage space, happen. It's taking time, yeah, wait. So, but if you see here, see, I have 1,000, let's say 1 TB data storage, okay, 1 TB data storage. That's the maximum capacity which I have. It's a SSD, okay, 1 TB SSD, I have it. Then, more than that, if I want to store, I don't have an access. But such kind of a situation, we will keep all our data in this server. We will keep all our data in this particular server rooms. So now, client system will use the remote services from this server. Means from one place. For example, you are asking a Google to give me the information of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. So now that Google server is saved all the information about Narendra Modi, and you will get all the required details to your computer. So this data is stored in some Google server in USA or Singapore. From there, you are getting the required information. You're getting a required information. So this is about client. And what do you mean by server? Server is nothing but it's a host computer. It's a host computer. It will store the data and process the data. It's a host computer. It will store and process the data. Means it is stored, say, billion gallons of data. And whenever somebody is asking, it will process the data. It means it will give it to them, required information. So server, it provides the services to the client system or other system in its network. In its network. Look at here. I have written in its network. Okay, what do you mean by this? So see, for example, if it is public, with the help of internet, you can access. If it is not public, only restricted access. If you have valid username and password, then only you can access. For example, if I want to access some details of QA Circle, if I go to qacircle.com, okay, now I have opened this qacircle.com website. This website source code, I want to see that. Anybody cannot access this, even though if I put one /admin, if I try to go, I will not be able to go there. See here, I have to enter the username and password. It is developed in the WordPress. I have to enter the username and password. Then only I can go. Otherwise, you cannot go. For example, similarly, if I go to Zukitech, there's a website. Zukitech, there's a company called Zukitech. They are into OTT testing. If I go here, zukitech.com, and if I enter /admin, so here also this is developed in WordPress. I will not be able to go inside the Zukitech. I'll not be able to go inside this website. So like this, they will have a restriction. They'll have a restriction. So server is a system that provides the services to other system in its network, where okay, there are many files are stored here that can be transferred or that can be processed as per the customer request. This is about client and server. Now take down heading client and server. Heading client and server. After that, you take on this diagram. Client and server. After that, take down the diagram. Let me know once you complete it. Completed. Now take down heading client. Client. Client is a computer. Client is a computer wherein which we can access all the data from the server. Client is a computer wherein which we can access all the data from the server, wherein which we can access all the data from the server, wherein which we can access all the data from the server. We can access all the data from the server. All the data from the server. We'll stop. Next slide. The client system that uses the remote services, the client system will uses the remote services from the server. The client system will uses the remote services from the server. The client system will uses the remote services from the server. The client system will uses the remote services from the server. Okay, so this is about client. Next heading, server. Server is a host computer, HOST, host computer. Server is a host computer that stores and processes the data. Server is a host computer that stores and processes the data. That stores and processes the data. Server is the host computer that stores and processes the data. Server is a host computer that stores and processes the data. Server is a host computer that stores and processes the data. Full stop. A server system, full stop and continue. A server system that provides the services to other systems. The server system that provides the services to other systems in its network. In its network. In its network. Okay, so this is about client and server. Now, let's get back to the web server. What do you mean by web server? What is web server? Means whatever you are seeing, your UI application, right? That is present in the web server only. That is present in the web server only. If you go here, whatever you are seeing our QA Circle website. Let me close this. Whatever the QA Circle website, whatever you are seeing, okay, this is present. They've changed, yes, they've changed the logo. Wait just a second. If I type QA Circle, logo is not changed. Yes. I told them to change this as a logo, not change it here. Here only they changed. Fine. Okay. Whatever it is running, right? This is present in the web server. It is present in the web server. So web server is a computer that runs our website. For example, I will go to godaddy.com. godaddy.com. For example, you want to build your own company website. You'll go here. You have to purchase one domain. For example, I want to purchase one domain like engineersbot.com. Bot.com. If I search whether it is available or not, it will give you a suggestion. Engineersbot.com, somebody was taken already. It is available for 9,999 if you want to buy from them, because they might be not they might be not using it. So then you need to pay more. But if you want engineersbot.in, you need to pay 6,999 per year. Or now I don't want this. I want qacircle.com. qacircle.com. It will give you a suggestion here. Somebody has already taken qacircle.com. QACIRCLE. Okay. And see here, you have qacircle.in. See, qacircle.in website is also available here. It is already taken, but it is still showing you QACIRCLE. Let me refresh. Maybe sometimes it will be checking the things. Okay, let me refresh here. Okay, let me come back to GoDaddy. Let me see what happens. QACIRCLE QACircle.in. Okay, so it is taken. Now it is giving you an option. QACircle.in is taken. So, but apart from that, other options you'll get it here. QACircle.world, QACircle.fit, QACircle.top. Like that, there are different things you are going to get. You can purchase this domain, then later you can host it in the particular web server. Okay, so what do you mean by web server? Web server is like, it's kind of a computer that runs our website. So it's a computer program that has got all the distributed web pages as per our requirement. The main objective of this web server is to store, process, and deliver the web pages whatever user want. For example, I want to access QACircle gallery page. When I click on gallery page, it should process the request and then it should give me a gallery page of QACircle, whatever we are doing it here. So it is taking time and it is going to give you, it will process and it will give you the required data. So that is the job of web server, to store, process, and deliver the web pages to the user. So it will be communicating with the help of HTTP protocol. If you see here, HTTPS, it will be using hypertext transfer protocol, HTTP. It will be using hypertext transfer protocol. But what is this S? S means extra security layer we have added. We have purchased the SSL certification. SSL certification, secure socket layer. What is the difference between HTTP and HTTPS? We will discuss in the upcoming class. So this, for intercommunication with this different pages, it will be using HTTP protocol, hypertext transfer protocol. So this is about the web server. Now write up, what is web server? Web server is a computer that runs our websites. Web server is a computer that runs our websites. Web server is a computer that runs the websites. Full stop. It's a computer program. It's a computer program. It's a computer program that distribute the web pages. That distribute the web pages. That distribute the web pages. Distribute the web pages as per the requirement. As per the requirements. Full stop. The main goal of the basic objective, right? The basic objective of web server is to store, process, 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 and deliver the web pages. Deliver the web pages. Deliver the web pages. Deliver the web pages to the users. Deliver the web pages to the users. Srikanth, your email ID is wrong. Srikanth is there in this call?
Yes, sir.
Please check your email. I'm getting multiple delivery.
No, it's correct.
Correct.
Srikanth3972@gmail.com. That's correct, sir.
Correct, huh?
Yes, correct.
See here, there was a temporary okay. See here, temporary problem delivering your message to Srikanth. Not only for this class, I'm getting it for many classes. Whatever I share it for SQL or manual, I'm getting this option. So please change your email and give it to me one more email.
Okay, sir.
Okay, it delivers the web pages to the users, full stop. The web server will be using HTTP protocol. Web server will be using HTTP protocol for the intercommunication. For the intercommunication. Now, I want all of you to answer this question. What is web server and what is API? If you don't answer, I will murder you now. You already know what is API. First class, I've done it. What is web server? Just now I completed. Answer. What is web server?
It is a computer that runs websites.
Only that much enough, huh?
No, sir, I will explain.
Yes.
It is hello.
Full answer I want. Yes, go ahead.
It's a computer that runs websites. It is a computer program that distributes the web pages as per the requirements. The basic objective of web server is to store and process and deliver the web pages to the users. The web server will be using the HTTP protocol.
HTTP protocol, hypertext
Yes.
transfer protocol.
Protocol.
Okay. What is API? Anybody apart from her? Different person.
API stands for Application Programming Interface. It will allow the two application to talk each other.
It will allow two applications to talk to each other. Each other. Fine. You know this answer. Okay. Next, what are all the HTTP protocols we have here? What is HTTP protocol? They will ask. What is HTTP protocol? HTTP protocol. Protocol means rules or guidelines. That is the meaning. Protocol. We have to follow the protocol of examination, or we have to follow the protocol of signal, like that, right? Rules or guidelines. That is nothing but protocol. So what is HTTP protocol? HTTP protocol stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol. It is the web application layer protocol. It works on client and server model. It works on client and server model. It works on client and server model. So using this protocol, we can access the web pages. We can access the web pages which are in the form of www. or in the form of HTTP. Yes. What is the full form of www?
World Wide Web.
World Wide Web. Okay, fine. Now take down. What is HTTP? This answer you can take it down from your own notes. What is web server and API? This question they will ask in the interview. The next, what is HTTP protocol? For that, I'll give you answer right on. Yes.
Baswana, is the main difference between the web server and API is just the way of communication between the server and the applications, like APIs to calls?
I will teach you now. I'll come back.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
this is web server, okay, which is maintaining our website. But inside this web server, there's a web service is there. That I'll teach you next class.
Okay.
Apart from this, I'll teach you web service. That's a separate layer. That's a separate part. There you get a difference between web service and API.
Okay.
Now write down. What is HTTP protocol? HTTP protocol stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol. HTTP stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol. Hypertext Transfer Protocol. Comma. It's a web application layer protocol. It's a web application layer protocol. It is the web application layer protocol. Full stop. It works on client and server model. It works on client and server model. It works on client and server model. It works on client and server model, comma, using this protocol. Using this protocol, we can access the data which is present on the web. Using these protocols, we can access the data which is present on the web. We can access the data which is present on the web. We can access the data which is present on the web. Okay, so this is about HTTP protocol. Now, I will answer your question. What is API and web service? See, whenever I develop API, whenever developer writes a code to develop an API, for example, see here, login page API code in Java. Okay. So using REST API with the help of Spring Boot, we are going to take here. We come back here. Authentication API. They have written one code, okay, here by importing all the security layers as well as by importing from SQL and from the local date and time and then date and time format, and then they're trying to access the data here. Okay, so they have created one they have created one API. They have created one API, big API. This is a developer task. You don't have to worry. They have created one API. Okay, so it is fetching it from the database. Whenever you enter your details, it will go and validate in the backend whether this username and password is correct or not in the table. String username, string table, that generating a password, all these things, it will go back and verify. Okay, so whenever any developer develops an API, initially we will test it in the local environment. Whenever API is developed, initially we will test it in local environment. What do you mean by local environment? In the company, there will be one LAN connection. So that is available only the internal employees, only the surrounding particular place. For example, only it is accessible in your company. The moment you come out of your office, you will not be able to access that application. Only it is available in your premises. That is a physical server which is present in your office, and you can access only in your office. Outside of your office, you cannot access the local environment. So we will test this API. Okay, whenever developer develops an API, we will initially test it in the local environment. And then we will move this API to the internet. The moment I move this API, look at here. So this is an internet. This is an internet. So this is your office. Okay. So the moment, okay, you have done a testing here. The moment you push it to the internet, means the cloud where everybody can access this. Okay. The moment this API exposed to the internet, then it becomes a web service. Then it becomes web service. The service which is available over the web, we call it as web service. Means with the help of internet, with the help of your browser, with the help of your application URL, you can access login page. You can ask the required product in the application. You can add the product to the cart. So all the activity you are doing it because this API got exposed. This API got exposed to the internet. This API got exposed to the internet. That is why we call it as web service. So initially APIs will be tested in the local environment. Once this API gets exposed to the internet, then it becomes a web service. Then it becomes web service. Understood now? What is API and web service?
Yes. Baswana, I don't know
Yes.
if this is important, just out of curiosity. When you say that web server stores the web pages, what exactly that means? Is that the code of the page or is it the data of
For
the page?
example, look at here. This is one computer,
Mhm.
okay, which is available in one particular place. GoDaddy, I told. GoDaddy is a service provider. So they when you take your domain, say qacircle.com, okay. So I will go and host it in this particular server.
Okay.
qacircle.com, I have hosted in this computer.
Hmm.
Okay. This is available in the GoDaddy. This is available in the GoDaddy server. Okay. So now I have hosted this where all my web pages I have written here with all the web service. So you are sitting in Bangalore. You are trying to access. So you are getting all the web pages. It is going and fetching the details. It is going and fetching the details. When you ask Dallas page, it is processing your request and getting it. So that processing and request is nothing but API only in between. So which is in the internet. So it becomes web service. Understood?
Yes.
Okay, fine. Now take down. What is API and web service? What is API and web service? Answer. API stands for Application Programming Interface. API stands for Application Programming Interface. It allows the two applications to talk to each other. It allows the two applications to talk to each other and exchange the information. It allows the two applications to talk to each other. It allows the two applications to talk to each other and exchange the information. And exchange the information. And exchange the information. It allows the two applications to talk to each other and exchange the information. Exchange the information. We'll stop. Whenever API is developed, initially we will test it in the local environment. Initially, we will test it in the local environment during the development phase. Initially, we will test it in the local environment. Initially, we will test it in the local environment during the development phase. For web APIs required internet. 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 So hence, we will move this API or we will expose this. Right. We will expose these APIs to the internet. We will expose these APIs to the internet. It might be in the testing server or in the production server. So we will expose these APIs to the internet. It might be in the testing server or production server.
Sir, can you repeat once again?
For web APIs, we required internet. So hence, we will move these APIs to the internet, or we will expose these APIs to the internet. We will expose these APIs to the internet. It might be a testing server or production server. Testing server or production server. Come on. Now, these APIs are available on the web. Now these APIs are available on the web, so we call it as web services. So we call it as web services. Next slide. APIs can be tested in the local server where we don't require the internet connection. We can test it in the LAN. APIs can be tested in the local server. We don't require internet. We can test it with the help of LAN connection. Okay. Next, separate answer you take. Web service, separate answer. One more. Web service, I've already given answer. Apart from that, you can add few more points. Right on point number 1. Web service means the service which is available over the web. We call it as web service. The service, web service means the service which is available over the web. We call it as web service. Full stop. Next point. It enables the communication between, 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 it enables the communication between the applications over the web. It enables the communication between the applications over the web. Third point, it provides the standard protocol format for the communication. It provides the standard protocol format for the communication. It provides the standard protocol format for the communication. Means standard rules and guidelines, how to communicate, how the data should be transferred, like that. It provides the standard protocol format for the communication. Last point. It is providing a platform to the APIs. It is providing the platforms to the APIs, because web service, the API, once it is moved to the web, it becomes web service. So here that web server is giving a platform. So web service, it provides a platform for APIs to interact each other. Web service, it provides a platform for APIs to interact each other. So why we use web services? So in order to have a platform independent communication using a web service, okay, so to different applications can talk to each other and share the information over the web. For that reason, I use web service. And then next, what is the difference between API and web service? Web service. Okay, if you look at here now, I'll say API here, and this is web servers, web service. Okay, point number 1. This API is there, right? Once I move it to the internet. Okay, so here I have an API, and which is wrapped with internet, Web service is an API wrapped with HTTP, wrapped with HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol. Hypertext Transfer Protocol. So API stands for Application Programming Interface, which allow the two applications to talk to each other on the local environment. The web service means you already know. I've given the notes. What do you mean by web service? The service which is available over the web. We call it as web service. It enables a communication between two applications over the web. And here the APIs which are wrapped in the internet, that becomes a web service, or wrapped with the help of HTTP protocol. So I call it as internet means by default, right? If you want to access any application, you use HTTP protocol. Okay. Whatever the web service I have here, all are APIs only. Because if API is not there, then it cannot become a web service. Yes, it is having an internet, fine. The combination of internet and API becomes web service. If API itself is not there, then it cannot be a web service. So I will say web service, all the web service, whatever I have, okay, login web service or logout web service, okay, whatever the web services I have, all are APIs. Because web service is depending on these APIs. But all these APIs are not web service, because here I don't want the internet to perform my activity here, But web service is depending on this API, but API is not depending on web service. Sometimes this web service cannot perform all the required activity, but this API, with the help of API, I can perform all the activities. And if I want to do something in the web service, I required internet, where API doesn't require internet to perform the required operation. It requires a LAN connection, and it performs the required operation in its own network. So that is the difference between API and web service. Now, you take why we use web service. I'll give an answer. Why we use web services? Why we use web services? Why we use web services? Web services is an API. Web services is an API. Web services is an API. Wait. Sorry. Why we use web service, right? Right on. To have a platform independent communication, right on, from scratch. To have a platform independent communication. To have a platform independent communication. To have a platform independent communication. To have a platform independent communication between two applications over the web. Between the two applications over the web. Over the web. To have a platform independent communication between the two different applications over the web, wherein which they can talk to each other and exchange the information.
Sir, once again, repeat, sir.
Wherein which they can talk to each other and exchange the information. From beginning, you want me to repeat?
No, sir.
Wherein which they can talk to each other and exchange the information. So this is about why we use web service. Next, difference between API and web service. Difference between API and web service. Point number one in the API. API stands for Application Programming Interface. API stands for Application Programming Interface. The service which is available over the web, we call it as web service. The service which is available over the web, we call it as web service. Second point. API is not a web service. API is not a web service. API is not a web service. Second point in the web service, you're right. Web service is an API. Web service is an API which is wrapped in HTTP protocol. Web service is an API which is wrapped in HTTP protocol. Which is wrapped in HTTP protocol. Web service is an API which is wrapped in HTTP protocol. Which is wrapped in HTTP protocol. Which is wrapped in HTTP protocol. Bracket, hypertext transfer protocol. Okay, next, third point in the API. You're right, all the APIs are not web services. All the APIs are not web services. Third point, all the APIs are not web services. But here, all the web services are APIs. All the web services are APIs. Okay. Next, fourth point. Fourth point. Fourth point. API doesn't need network for its operation. API doesn't need a network for its operation. API doesn't need a network for its operation. Doesn't need network for its operation. Okay, here, fourth point. Web service required a network for its operation. Required a network for its operation. Okay, so then they will ask, what do you mean by API protocol? So API protocol means, so it is having a defined set of, guidelines or rules while developing an API. So developer has to follow these APIs. So there are some rules or guidelines. There are different types of API protocols which we have. So we have SOAP and we have a REST, R-E-S-T, REST. And then we have JSON RPC. JSON RPC. Representational protocol, I guess. Then fourth one is GR, graphical representation protocol. Then fifth one is GraphQL. GraphQL. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then sixth one is XML RPC. RPC, representational protocol. Then seventh one is Apache Thrift. Apache Thrift. So these are all the API protocols. These are all the API protocols which are available. But in the real time, we will be using only these two, SOAP and REST, which are very, very important. Similarly, they will ask one more question. What are all the types of web services? Types of web services. types of web services. There are mainly two types. One is SOAP, Simple Object Access Protocol. SOAP stands for Simple Object Access Protocol. Whereas REST stands for Representational State Transfer. So I'll say a RESTful web service. It stands for Representational State Transfer. Representational State Transfer. RESTful web service. Representational State Transfer. This is about RESTful web service. So these are all the types of web services we have. Now write down different types of API protocols. Different types of API protocols. Write down these 7. After that, you write down types of web service. Once you complete this, let me know. Completed?
Yes, sir.
Then types of web services. For that answer, you write down. There are two types of web services. One is SOAP and RESTful. Completed? Okay, so tomorrow we'll discuss in detail about what is SOAP and then what is REST, and then we'll move on to the other topic. Let's stop now.